So it's really funny. Like both my sisters married guys from Spanaway, and I married a girl from Spanaway. And so like the six of us essentially all graduated from Spanaway Lake.
Welcome back to the SwaySide Connection Podcast. And who do we have on today's episode?
Today's episode, you have Ryan Hostetler, class of 2000.
Class of 2000. Nice. You're like the second person from your class to jump on the pod. And I'm very thankful because I never knew how these things would go. And so it's so fun. I just think it's funny that I like that more and more people keep coming on. So, man, that's dope. What are you? First question is, what are you drinking over there, by the way? I was just wondering what are you drinking over? Yeah, what are you drinking? What are you sipping on?
Well, I got two drinks. Yeah, just a little Coke Zero, not a plug. And then that one's about to end, so I got my Propel water, not a plug. So
Nice.
nothing
Nice.
too crazy, just trying to stay hydrated with my electrolytes. Super fun.
Nice. And so you were mentioning that you were
Yeah.
Before we start,
the first few minutes were hard to hear, but we got it.
Okay, yeah. So hopefully it stays like this, but no promises, because basically right now I'm hot spotting off of my phone. So that's just how this internet is set up today. It just differs on day to day. So, but yeah, today we're using the hotspot, and yeah. So hopefully it goes smooth. So you mentioned before we started, you're getting ready to go camping.
Yeah, we're heading out. There's kind of an
Nice.
annual camping trip that we do every year. And so
Is it
we're
the
heading
same
out
place, or
on
do you guys
Thursday.
switch it up?
Yeah, it's been at the same place for, I want to say like 5 years. Let's be honest, it's not tent camping, it's a glamping. So there's a yurt. So we basically just roll up with our car, with our cooler, unpack the sleeping bags, put them in the yurt, and like, you don't got to pitch a tent. You don't got to worry about, there's bugs and everything, but
Yeah.
you don't got to worry about, anything else. So
That's
it works.
amazing. Yeah. And then how, like, is that how much does a yurt cost for like a camping weekend?
Oh, that's a great question. You'd have to ask my wife what we pay for the yurt. I don't think it's much more than like a campsite. And so the place that we go is called Canasket State Park. It's only like, I don't know, like an hour depending on traffic from our house. And it's in a cell dead zone. So like there's only like one person that ever has cell phone that is with us. So it's really nice because you don't have to worry about computers or work or text messages. None of the kids' devices really work. So it's basically like you're disconnected. And if I'm not mistaken, like a campsite there is like $30. And I think the yurt that we stay in is like big baller, like $90. And then I think there's another like $90 RV spot that you can get. So I don't know, there's probably 50 spots there, but there's only like 10 yurts. So we get a group of people together, and then we go out there with our yurts and sit around and do a whole lot of nothing.
That's probably my favorite thing to do in the summer, for sure, hands down. It's just to go camping like that. But that sounds like fun, like the yurt, just because the setting up of a tent and all that is kind of a pain, even though like sometimes you could take joy in it and there's fun in that. But man, that just saves you.
We used to camp at this place when none of us had kids, and then we had kids and we realized it was a lot harder to like camp with like a newborn than you would want.
Yes.
So then we got the yurts, and with kids, my kids are 10 and 5 now, or 6 now. So it's a lot easier, but still it makes it way easier to have a yurt with kids for me.
Sure. 1,000. I like camp.
Yeah, for sure. Just putting the devices away is awesome. So the kids ride bikes. The parents do what parents do and sit around a campfire and stuff. There's like a little river that they swim in, and, sidewalk chalk for the kids, and, drinks and fun for the adults. I'm a sucker for a good s'more, there's not many times in life when you're just sitting around a campfire or whatnot. So I'll say the s'more for sure, but I do like to have an adult beverage every once in a while sitting around and passing the time. Funny that you were just talking about food, and I thought about one time that I went camping with a bunch of guys from high school. Actually, I think every guy that we went camping on was from high school. It was Ben Kelly, Brad Dobbs, Justin Martinez, Chris Randall. There was probably Ryan Olson was probably there as well, but just a few guys. And we were actually going over to Eastern Washington because Ben Kelly got a traffic ticket, and he wanted to pay the ticket, but he didn't want it to go on his insurance. So he thought the smart idea would be for all of us to drive over the pass in a car that was leaking oil.
Oh my.
And then we got to the campsite and we started like getting the tents out and everything. And Ben didn't even have a sleeping bag. And I was like, I guess I have to admit I got 2 sleeping bags because I wanted to sleep on one so that I, didn't hurt my back and all. So I had to give up my sleeping bag. But on that trip, when you're talking about food, we had no food. All we had was a cooler full of beer. And then we had to drive like 30 minutes into town every single day just to buy food. And I think we just ended up basically eating like hot dogs, hamburgers, and like Lunchables the entire weekend we were camping, because that was all that we could keep in our cooler and other than beer. And that was basically it. That was our camping trip. So on that camping trip, we didn't have no food. There was no food to be had. But
How
on
old
this
were
one,
you?
oh man, this was probably like right after college, or no, right after high school. We're probably in college. So it wouldn't surprise me if this was like 1, 2, 3 years removed from high school. Yeah, we did not plan very well for that. But nowadays we've got checklists, and we're talking to the other people that are going, and we're like, okay, we're bringing ham. Are you bringing turkey? Who's got bread? Because you have limited space in the cooler. You can't just carry your whole refrigerator out there. So it'll be a good time. Been camping with these folks for a while, and there's actually going to be quite a few Spanaway Lake grads that'll be there too. Yeah, it's called Connection State Park. I think it's probably considered Maple Valley, maybe Enumclaw. But
damn, that's not that far.
No, I mean, in the whole grand scheme of things, no. Like, I live in Snoqualmie, Washington, so we can get there in like 45 minutes to an hour. So when you think about the fact that you don't have any cell service, it's like the shortest distance you can possibly go to just have no service. I think you were breaking up, but I think you asked if there was water. And yeah, there is water. There's like a little river and a little swimming hole. I couldn't even tell you what river it is. I just know that we go to this little swimming hole. Yeah. I was born in Tacoma at Tacoma General. I think like there was like 2 hospitals back in the day, and one was like Madigan on base and was Tacoma General, and maybe there was 1 or 2 others, but everybody that I knew basically was born at one of 2 places.
One of those 2. Yeah.
So I was born there. Yeah, I was born there. I lived my first 4 years in Lake Bay, Washington, which is kind of out by Gig Harbor. And then my family moved when I was 4. So I was born in 82. So we're talking 86. We moved to Spanaway and my parents still live in that house. So, we're going on 40 plus years now that my family's been in Spanaway. And I didn't leave Spanaway until after graduation in high school. And then after that, I left and, went to college and university, and just kind of came back when, in between houses. So I'd be in college and then have a house, and then, I'd have to move out, and then 2 weeks later I'd have a new house. And so I'd just move all the stuff into my parents' downstairs, sleep on the couch for like 2 weeks, and then, go to whatever house or apartment that I was at. So 41 years, I guess, my parents have lived in or around the same house. And I guess I'm doing the math wrong. If I was moving there when I was 4 and I'm 43, so it's 39 years. So going on 40. Yeah. And the craziest part about it, I've seen so many things change in that amount of time. Just drive. I was actually in Spanaway. My mom's birthday was yesterday. So on Sunday, I went down and saw her, spent some time with her and whatnot. Just driving around, it's just like, I remember when that was just a bunch of horses back there. And I remember when that was a insert whatever business it was, and now it's a different business. Some of them have stayed the same, but a lot of them have changed. So it's just crazy to see what's happened in 39 years.
Something was there.
There used to be, so I lived less than a mile from Spanaway Junior High and Thompson Elementary. So I went to Thompson, then I went to Spanaway Junior, then I went to Spanaway Lake. And of course, they're all different new buildings now or have been renovated. So the kids that are there now are like reaping the benefits of you and I having to struggle through buildings that were probably not up to code.
They got everything nice.
Yeah, technology based. We were driving towards Tacoma from Spanaway on Pacific Ave. And I remember we were driving, it was on the right side. There used to be a gun shop right there. It was a pretty large gun shop, kind of all the way down like by where Burger King was. And now it's a dispensary, and there was like a few pawn shops and stuff on the left-hand side. And now they're just closed up businesses. And, Spinning Wheels is no longer Spinning Wheels. That's actually been like a grocery store for quite some time, I
Oh,
believe.
wow.
Just a lot of the businesses. I remember where we used to celebrate, like, your soccer or your baseball, end of year parties was always at that Godfather Pizza right there by
Oh,
that
yeah, for
Safeway
sure.
that's right on Pack Ave and like one. It's not, the building's there, but the business is not there anymore. So those are the type of things that you just look at and you're like, okay.
You
I
sure
guess
it's
the
not
Taco
there?
Bell's still there, so that's good.
Because
Unless I looked at the wrong building.
wait,
Unless I looked at the wrong building, maybe. But I thought it was gone.
oh
Maybe it just
yeah,
looked
I
like
don't
a ghost town. Hmm. Yeah,
remember. I
nowadays
loved
I
going
don't know
there.
if I go to a buffet there, but for sure, for
Which
sure. I think you asked if I moved in '86. So
no, no,
yeah, well, yeah. I started, K through 6. I was sorry. I'm having a little trouble hearing you with
no,
the
it's
the
my
internet
bad.
connection.
And
Yeah,
forgive
Thompson
me, my
K through
guys. My,
6.
my
It's
so
good. It's
leave.
it's clear right now, but for the first 17 minutes, I was struggling with every third word. So yeah, K through 6 was Thompson. So I was at Thompson. Man, I was at Thompson from K through 6, and I like it was fun. I liked it. It was good people, good times. We didn't know any better. We didn't know if it was a good school or a bad school, or what, if our teachers were good or bad. We were just going to school like we were supposed to. I think you asked if I remember anything from elementary school, any
Yeah.
teachers,
Yep.
and there was. I mean, you could name some teachers, and I probably knew. I think I had a Miss Carson, Miss Burpee. The one teacher that I remember that stood out was the only male teacher that I had, which was Mr. Sturbins in third grade. And what I remember about him was there were two or three things I remember about him. He would go out on the playground and play like pickup football, and he was the all-time quarterback. So, you got
That's
open,
fun.
Mr. Sturbins was throwing you the ball. And then he had a little graph where we were learning like multiplication and plussing and minus and all that fun stuff. And he had a thing that you would, if in the NFL on Monday when you'd come in, you'd have to track the games on some spreadsheet he had. So I remember I tracked NFL games on the spreadsheet. I remember that. And then I also remember like the Desert Storm conflict was going on during that time, and
Oh,
so
wow.
that was
Yep.
kind of big in the world. And so
Yep.
I remember he would talk about it, and my uncle was actually over there serving, and so like we would like get to read the letters that our loved ones would send back over. So I remember that. And then years later, I don't know why I was there, what I was doing other than golfing, but I was golfing at the Classic, which was kind of out by where Bethel is, not too
Okay.
far from there. And he was like the course marshal, and so I'm just hitting my ball, and this guy
Oh,
drives up. I'm like, is that Mr. Sturbins? And but he was probably a good 70, 75 years old. But yeah, he was
wow.
there. So he was the course marshal at at the Classic at some point after graduation. Yeah, I do have siblings. I have two sisters that are 2 years younger, Haley and Heather Hostetler, and they're in the same grade because they were twins. But yeah, they graduated from Spanaway Lake in 2002. So
Okay.
yeah, two siblings. They essentially moved there when they were two, so they don't remember much of the other house, and it's all they ever knew was Spanaway.
Because there
He
was a
very
group.
well, yeah, he probably
He,
did.
he was Ben
Yeah,
was into
then
Ben.
then that would identify if Ben was there, then Heather was there, and if Heather was there, then Haley was there. So I bet they were. Yeah, my sisters have always run around with Lindsay Slater, which is Brian's younger sister. They're in the
Yeah.
same grade and whatnot. And actually, my
Yeah.
wife, who I'm married to, lived in that same neighborhood. So yeah, the Slaters are a family that we know well.
Perfect. So it's just you and your. So it's you and your twin sisters then.
Yeah, there was only three of us.
Nice.
I don't think my parents could have handled another one.
Well, what was that like growing up with you know, twin sisters and in Spanaway at that time, and
Yeah. I mean, it was the only thing I ever knew, so I didn't know anything different. Every time we wanted to go out to eat as a family, I got outvoted because the girls would just kind of go
oh,
together and vote 2-1. So I do have that's a sore subject for me, but no, it was fine. I mean, in grade school, I mean, we were in the same school for the longest during grade school, and then they would basically, when I was in ninth grade, they were in seventh
yeah,
grade, so we were only together for 1 year in junior
and
high, and they were homeschooled for quite a bit. I actually don't even know when they came back into school and when they
okay,
didn't. I actually think they came back into school like ninth grade, because I refused to homeschool, but they were homeschooled, and I think they came into ninth grade because my mom didn't know how to like deal with like grades and stuff for like college and
Yep.
like high school graduation and stuff like that. So I was in public school the whole time, and they were in until, you'd have to ask them, I don't
Yeah.
know, sometime, and then they left, and then they came back in, and then when I was in high school, we were there. When I was a senior, they were sophomores. So like we were in some schools together, but yeah, it was fine. I mean, just, ran around. They had their
Yep.
friends, and their friends were their friends, and my friends were our friends. The funny thing about it is I ended up marrying one of their very good friends, and one of them married one of my really good friends, but none of that materialized until we were like
Much later.
27,
Wow.
28 years old. So it was, yeah, a long time later. So it's really funny. Like both my sisters married guys from Spanaway, and I married a girl from Spanaway. And so like the six of us essentially all graduated from Spanaway Lake from 2000 to 2002, all of us.
Wow.
And so it's very interesting. I kind of started thinking about it later in life, was like, maybe we all like were attracted to each other because we all kind of had the same upbringing a little bit. We were in the same area. We understood the same things. It just kind of felt like maybe that had something to do with it. But who
I think
knows?
that's
Who knows?
definitely part of it for sure, but I know that's amazing. That's
Damn.
so like, do you find you just said, or you mentioned earlier that you have kids. How do you find your parenting style in compared to how your parents raised you and your sisters?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, we grew up in a rather religious house, and that kind of shaped like our upbringing. The parents were very involved in the church and whatnot, and we're that's not how we're raising our kids, and not that it was
Yep.
bad. It was just like it's just different. I guess the biggest difference that I see in raising my kids in the community that I'm in now versus the community that we were in, and I've heard you talk about this before, and I say it's one of the greatest things about Spanaway was the diversity,
Mhm.
and I loved it, and it was something that I've never felt again. But I really value the fact that we grew up in such a culturally diverse area. I while we all understood, like within Spanaway there was, the different pockets of people, we all mesh what I would consider really well compared to what I see going on in today's world, so to
For
speak.
sure.
And that was something that I guess I didn't understand how valuable that was in my upbringing, and some of the things that I was exposed to that were really cool. Like I don't know a whole lot of people who grew up not from Spanaway that were eating lumpia as a white
Yeah,
person.
yeah.
Like that was something, and getting to go to, even when I went down to California for school, like when they were like, hey, do you want to go to Quinceañera? Yeah, like that sounds cool. Like,
Yeah.
let's do that. And I don't think that I would have had those types of experiences every stop along the way if I wasn't like open to different like races and ethnicities and sexual orientations and all
For
that stuff. Like
sure.
we had that. And that's something that I feel that, living where I live now and having my kids grow up where they're living now, we miss that. And my wife and I talk about that all the time, is like, we wish there was more diversity, and it just, it shows what the world really was versus like
Yeah,
the picturesque, what people think it should be.
for
So
sure.
I really loved growing up in Spanaway. It was so much fun. And, it had its
Yeah,
faults,
it's
but at
not
the same
perfect.
time, just like growing up here, I just wish, yeah, I wish my kids had the option to have more diversity
For
around
sure.
this area. And it just isn't here, but
No, all good.
it is what it is. So that was like one of my biggest takeaways, was I love that fact.
Yeah, man. So speaking of just like continuing on kind of like with you're talking about you went to Thompson. Now, did you do any extracurriculars when you were in elementary school at Thompson?
Yeah, like all of my, like, I wouldn't say all, but the things that I remember the most extracurricular were basically sports related. So
Hmm.
in like Thompson, I know I played baseball, and I know I played soccer. I wrestled for like a year and then broke my arm. And, like, so those were the things that I did, was usually like sports
Yep.
related growing up. And then those carried on until I was in junior high. And then I kind of like picked a sport, and that sport was baseball. But, just growing up, I was willing to do I know I played flag football. I remember seeing pictures of that. I don't think I was very good because you weren't allowed to like jump, and I like to jump over people or
That's a
something.
weird rule.
I don't remember, but So yeah, I did that kind of stuff. I also did band from like,
Mm.
I don't know, fifth or sixth grade all the way until my sophomore year in high school, and then I just kind of went a different direction.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk about Spanaway Junior more. So you did band at Spanaway Junior, and then you played like a lot of the sports there too. Sounds like.
Yeah, yeah. So I was very heavily, and actually one of the photos that I grabbed, we can show that later, was actually our band director. For some reason, he came to our senior graduation like party that my friends and I all threw kind of like we were like, well, instead of going to like seven different parties, we'll just have one. And he came, and I was in band with him. Don Rose was his name. And some of the people that I remember from band, Don Rose was the band director. And then I remember, I think you've talked to Brandon
Yep.
Gorley before, and I know that when you were talking to Gerald, like Rocky Sandoval
Yep.
came up. He sat right next to me in jazz band, and Dustin Blatnick, I remember,
Oh, yep.
was playing the guitar. He was super super good. I think he's down in like Arizona right now. That was the last time I
What
heard
instrument
where
did you
he
play
was.
in
But yeah,
band?
played in band, and I played saxophone.
Oh,
So yeah, saxophone. Had a lot of fun with it. Just my next door neighbor, like growing up, she used to play the saxophone. So like one day she was like, "Come on over, you can play the saxophone." And I started like blowing into it, making some noise, and then next thing she know, she taught me a few things. And after that, I was in band, and I think you were in choir,
I
right?
was in choir. Yep. Yep.
Yep, yep. We were just on opposite sides of the musical
Yeah.
spectrum. I can't sing.
No, all good, all good. What you call it? So then at Spanaway Junior, yeah, what was that like? What was that experience like? Like same thing, kind of like with the elementary school. We'll get to Spanaway Lake, but like, do you have any favorite memories, teachers, classes from Spanaway Junior?
Some of the memories that I have of that place were just like, it was more of the people.
Yeah.
Like, I remember some of the classes and some of the teachers, but really it was the people. And that's where I got like introduced to even more people that, like when you had like I don't even know what schools fed into there, but like, I think it was like Natchez Trail and Thompson and maybe a few others. But that's where I like met like Cindy Hodge and the Melvin Leon Guerrero and just some of those other people that I wasn't exposed to
Yep.
in my Thompson days. And it's just like, oh, there's more people. Cool. Oh, they're like us. Cool. And just started messing around. And I mean, I remember vividly. Did you go to Spanaway Junior
I went to
or no?
Cedar Crest. I could have.
Cedar Crest. Okay. See,
I lived right next to Spanaway Lake. So it's funny because there's a group of us, man, there's a handful of us that we all lived next to Spanaway Lake, but we all went to Cedar Crest. And I think we could have went
uh-huh.
either way, So
Either way.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I living like basically right across the street, like one of the developments, like right across the street, like I didn't have a choice. But
Yeah, you
the
were
things
right
that I
there.
remember there was like walking. Yeah, yeah. Walking through like where all of our lockers were, it was just like these long hallways with a ton of glass. And like you could like brush up against the glass and it would just break. And so like
Whoa.
it wasn't like all of the time that the glass would break was there a problem going on. Sometimes you just walk by and it was cold and there was a crack and you just like it just broke. So by the end of it, they had it all plexiglass. So it was like instead of like glass, they had replaced every glass panel that broke with like plexiglass. So like towards the if it had rained, it got like all hot and muggy and like sweaty in there, and like it was like all foggy up, and it was bad. I remember that was something that I will never forget, like the feeling of having to walk through those little corridors to go from where like the cafeteria and gym were to where all the classes were. You had to walk through this corridor, and that's where all of our lockers were. And back in those days, we shoved everything into those lockers, everything.
Yeah, that's crazy. Now,
I also I
yeah.
also remember I also remember knowing that like those buildings were like that building specifically was like on its last leg
Yeah.
when I was there. It was like, oh man, like we were in like I don't know, I'm making this up, but there were like 20 portables that I remember that were outside the school.
Yeah.
And most of your classes weren't even in the school; they were in the portables. You just kind of felt like it had been there a while and it was getting a little dated.
Yeah. No, I think when you guys were there, I think you're right. I think it was definitely like I think it should have been redone probably before, like even when my class started going there. So like maybe even like 3-4 years before you even were there, it was
Yeah.
probably due. So no, that's awesome that you remember that. Now to high school. So now you're in high school, sort of same thing. I like to ask, like, what were some of your favorite classes, teachers, and then memories and stuff like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I had a lot of good experiences, a lot of cool classes, a lot of cool classmates. And again, the thing that I always go back to was the people. And it was like
Mm.
it didn't really matter what the building looked like or what was going on, but like the people. And so like I think the teachers that made the biggest impact on me were probably Miss Beckman. She was a math teacher, and she just was pretty patient. And like math wasn't my like go-to thing, but she was patient with me and she was nice. And I think it helped that she was, she was on the younger spectrum of the teacher side of the world, so like she was able to relate a little bit more. And then I think you've probably heard this before, but like I didn't play football, but Coach Roback was a very inspirational and somebody that I looked up to a lot. I took every time I could get into his weightlifting class, like I was in it. And even to this day, what was it, like a year or two ago, there was a golf tournament that we had tickets to, and he actually came up with my father-in-law, who actually was a Spanaway Lake athletic director for some time after we
Oh,
left.
wow.
But him and Roback came up and they walked the golf course and watched the golf tournament with me. So that was kind of cool getting to see Roback, years later, but just getting to talk to him and whatnot. So definitely Roback, and then Miss Beckman was by far my two teachers that probably made the biggest impact.
That's dope. Man, do you have any, and then like what kind of extracurriculars? You kind of said you narrowed down your sports, right, to baseball. Did you do anything else? So
Yeah. When I got,
you were in band sophomore
I
year
mean,
and then you stopped
no, I
doing
mean,
that?
yeah, but yeah, I was in band my sophomore year, and then I stopped. I got mono, like I got mono my sophomore year, and like I was out of school for like a month. And I think the catalyst to not doing band anymore was like I showed up one time to a football game. We were in band, so we had to play at the football game and march and everything. And I was like sicker than a dog. And I told the band director, I was like, I can't do this. And he was like, no, you're gonna do this. I was like, I'm sick, man. I can't do this. And he was like, no, you're going to do this. So I kind of like stood there in my band uniform. It was cold. I remember I didn't feel good at all. And after that, my mom like just took me to like the urgent care. There was that urgent care on Pacific right by where that Arby's
Yes.
was.
I was
And
just going to say,
the building's still there. I don't know what's there, but I went there and they were like, yeah, you've got mono, and like you got to stay away from people. And so I remember I was sick and I want to say it was like 2 or 3 weeks, but it could have been a full month that I was just not in school.
wow,
And after that, I was just like,
I'm not going back there.
Screw that. Like, I'm not going, if a teacher like makes you do something like, and you're that
Yes.
sick and you're like legitimately telling, I was like, I'm done with this. So I continued to do like private lessons and playing saxophone on my own, but then it kind of ran its course.
Yeah.
It kind of ran its course, and I just kind of stopped doing it. But so yeah, I did that, and then I did baseball. And other than that, I was playing baseball kind of year round, almost like training and playing on different teams and whatnot. So I wasn't just playing on like the Spanaway Lake team, but I was playing on other teams as well in the summertime and whatnot. So that was my main thing. I enjoyed it. It took me to college, and that's what I did in college as well. So it was fun.
No, that's dope. No, that's dope, man. I think one of the reasons why man, I'm going all out of order today, but this podcast that you're on, how did you hear about this podcast in general?
We have connected. There's so many social medias that are
There
out there
is.
these days, and we
It's
connected.
hard to keep
Somehow
track.
one of us followed up each other on Twitter/X. I think honestly you posted something, and I don't know even who the first one that I watched, but I watched a few of them. I'm not going to say I watched them all.
I mean, there's a lot.
I
You're
watched a few of them. And I think it
33.
was just something.
You're episode 33. So
I think
there's a lot.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I think you had just posted something on X, and then I watched it and I was like, oh shit, look at what Heinz is doing. And I thought that you were, overseas, and I think you're in Samoa right now, I think. But yeah, and I was just like, oh man, I remember him, and we've liked a few things that each other's posted, and I think it's something that you posted on sports, and I like corrected it slightly or something like that. But yeah,
Possibly.
I just heard about it on your socials. I was just like, well, there you go.
No, man, that's dope.
And I'll listen to a podcast for sure. I got, when I'm running or doing housework or whatnot, I got an ear pod in. I'm just listening to something. So yeah, gave it a good listen.
I think as I get older, it's like, man, it's probably my favorite thing to do. And so not just recording it, but listening to podcasts. I love just doing that. It's like my favorite. It's probably one of my favorite things to do. And so that's why I enjoy this
Yeah,
because it's fun. So, but I saw,
yeah, my wife gets on me all the time for listening to like I just always have something in my ear and I'm just listening. And she's like, "Did you hear me?" I'm like, no, no, not really. Paying attention to this.
no. So, I mean, what I love about this too is just like, man, this is just a random podcast about Spanaway and Spanaway people. But this month that we're recording this podcast, it's July of 2025. And 5 years ago, we lost a good friend. And I kind of I like these so that because it gives us a chance to kind of honor people that maybe not aren't here anymore. And so that's another reason why I kind of reached out to Ryan, just because we lost Travis Olson July 2nd, 2000. And so and like I saw one of Ryan's posts just kind of like commemorating Travis's memory and stuff. And so that's another reason why I kind of wanted to also bring Ryan on here to maybe to like share some stories that he has of Travis. And because recently I just did a podcast with Jason and we kind of touched on it a little bit, but I wasn't really that close with Travis, but I was closer with him. I was closer to Zach because
Yeah.
he was my year. And so I would go
Mhm.
to their house all the time, and obviously Travis is there, but I would go, to hang out with Zach and then, the whole family too, So I have some random memories of just being at their house just watching TV and just doing random stuff. But yeah, man, can you just share some memories that maybe you have kind of Travis and stuff?
Yeah, yeah. Travis made a profound impact on my life and many other people's lives. And I'm not going to sit here and say we were like the best of friends, but we were really good friends. And I miss him dearly even to this day. And kind of I don't do much on socials. I really don't. I follow people and I'm there, but I'm not active. But I feel like the one or two things that I do every year is like posting videos of my kids on their birthdays or wishing them a happy birthday, just so that there's something there digitally so that they can remember like what they were doing, but also like paying homage to Travis. And every July 2nd and every time his birthday rolls around, I think about it. Some of the things that Travis was just special. I mean, he was one of those people that it didn't matter what clique, what group, whatever you were in, you knew who Travis was, you respected him, you liked him, he was cool to everybody. Just the fact that he took things serious and then he wasn't serious. So like for an example, like I lifted weights with him and I tried to keep up with him, not successfully, but like
Yeah.
when we would be in the weight room and lifting, like he was all business. And you might have been joking around, like doing a flex off in the mirror with a friend or something. He's like, "Hey, we got work to do. Let's get over and get this done." And he was pushing weight when the rest of us were just lifting weight. He was pushing weight.
Yeah.
And, some of the things that I know that his jersey is hanging in the rafters or in a frame in the gym. And then I know that, I'm so glad that the kids these days get to use the weight room. I don't know if you've been back, but the weight room like got moved to where the small gym is now.
That
But
seems
in
like
like
a better place for it to
yeah,
be.
it's way better and it's nicer and it had equipment and everything like that. And just looking up on the board, like some of his records, school records, 20, and I was there like 2 or 3 years ago, maybe before COVID, maybe it was like 5 or 6. Some of his records are still there.
Wow.
And that just shows how like serious he was about powerlifting and like doing that stuff. And I just remember trying to keep up with him. And it was like the things he was doing with like 45-pound weights and
Yes.
we were like doing like sit-ups and stuff and crunches. And we were just trying to keep up with like 10 pounds. And he was just mashing through rep after rep after rep. And he's like, this guy's on another level. He's doing something different.
Yeah.
And that it just shows that he was winning like state powerlifting championships and records that are still, on the board at Spanaway Lake right now. So just the ability that he had to just like turn it on and be super serious about something, but at the same time, when that was over, just go back to being regular Travis and having fun. But, yeah, it was tough to lose him. And it very much shaped my life into what I do now was like and Gerald was talking about how him and Travis were talking about being roommates. Well, I don't know if Gerald knows this, but Travis talked to me about being roommates at UW as well. I never went to UW, but Travis was trying to find a roommate. So I was supposed to go to UW with the rest of them, all the rest of my
Yep.
friends. And when Travis passed, it kind of took me down a different path that I basically said like, well, if Travis can't do what Travis wanted to do with his life, I better try, at least give it a good effort to do what I wanted to do. And so that took me down instead of following my friends in academics to like the University of Washington, I went and played baseball at some smaller ish schools because that's what I truly wanted to do. And so like that was part of the whole Travis experience for me, is once he passed, I was like, well, I want him to kind of carry on and live vicariously, and not saying that this is exactly what I would have done if he'd have been around. But it just was one of those things that I felt compelled that I needed to do because somebody else was taken from us that couldn't do what he wanted to do.
No, man, that's so profound. No, man, that's see, that's why I'm happy I do this, is to hear like stories like that, just because, man, like I am, a lot of people say, hey, I'm grateful for every day, but it's like, are you? Because it's like, sometimes I ask myself that same thing. And then like, but hearing like stories of like you going to chase something, like leaving your friends to go chase this thing, scratch that itch. Man, that's kind of what, oh man, I give you so much props for that. That's so dope, and so, because a lot of people can't say that.
I appreciate
a lot of people get scared
and
do nothing, or just they'll follow the whatever. And it's like, man, life is.
The other really cool thing that came out of the Travis tragedy was we were living up in Seattle. And when I say we, it was like myself, Ben Kelly, Brad Dobbs, and then other people we had collected along the way. And we were living in this place in Green Lake in a house, and we had a poker game every Tuesday in our basement. And Ben reached out to Zach and said, hey, you want to come play poker? And Zach showed up for probably, I want to say like 3 or 4 years straight. Every Tuesday, Zach would roll up and we play poker with Zach. I haven't seen Zach in a long time, but like we played poker in the basement with Zach Olson for probably 2, 3, 4 years every Tuesday. And it was just like something we all looked forward to. And, sometimes we talk about Trav and sometimes we wouldn't. But I also got to know Zach on a better level than, just Travis's big brother, right? So it was also nice to just have him around as well. So that was an awesome time in our lives for sure.
Oh man, that's dope. Cause I'm so pissed he never told me to come through, because I lived right there off of Green Lake too forever. I lived there. You know what's funny? I remember a random day Ben delivered, like, I want to say it was like chicken or something to me.
Yeah. Yes. He worked at Wingstop.
Yeah.
And I don't exactly know what house we were living in at that point, but he was working at Wingstop. And sometimes I would end up driving his delivery route because he's like, man, I'm tired. I can't stay up. And, I got to deliver till 4. And I'm like, hey, man, swing by the house, pick me up, and I'll just drive your car. And you just like make the deliveries. Where off Green Lake were you living?
I lived right by North Seattle Community College. So there was like that and an Indian heritage school. Like I actually lived closer to this Indian. That's a brand new elementary school now, but I lived basically right there. So like I would run to there was years I didn't go to Green Lake, even though I lived right next to Green Lake. And when I say right next to Green Lake, it was like maybe half a mile to a mile away, because that was my workout. I used to run to Green Lake, run around it, and then run back to so that whole thing, if I ran the outside, that was like 5 miles. But I lived basically right by North Seattle Community College off that street. That street is 90th.
Yeah.
90th. I think that street is
the
90th.
House. Yeah. The house that we had poker at, that Zach would show up, was on 80th.
Oh my God.
And so you know where that Duke's was? Yeah, we were right there.
Yeah.
You know where that Duke's was?
Yes.
We were literally a block and a half north of that Duke's.
Oh my God.
And then before that, the guys, I was in college, not at UW. My friends that were in UW, the Brads, the Bens, the Lukes, they were living in a house. You know where those fields were off of Lower Woodland, the baseball fields and the soccer fields that got all turfed out,
and the tennis.
They lived right across the street.
Oh yeah,
yeah. They lived right across the street from there. So we were running around Green Lake houses in that area for some time.
That's crazy. I lived there.
I'm sorry that we never ran into each other.
I lived there like 15 years. I lived in those apartments. Well, maybe, yeah. I moved out of that apartment in 2018. And then that's when I moved away and I moved to Vegas. So I was in that area. I lived in that area forever. But partly because the rent was so cheap, and it was like, I kind of just stayed there for like forever. It's so crazy. I lived in like a 3-bedroom, and I probably had, I'm not even playing, like maybe 15 different roommates just living in that.
Come through.
Yeah, just come through, cycling through. It was just
Yeah.
like somebody would move out, somebody
Yeah.
else would rent, and it was just like, just because the rent was so cheap, and it was just like, yeah, it was just, and I liked being next to
Yeah.
Green Lake. Like that area is fun. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
like, man,
Those those were the days, man. I remember one of the houses we lived in, we were paying like $400 rent. I mean, we were splitting it three
yep.
ways, but there was a 3-bedroom for $400 a guy. $1,200 for a 3-bedroom house in Seattle.
But
Forget about it. That doesn't happen
that's what it was when I first
Yeah.
moved in there, probably around like 2002, 2003. It was around that. And then like the rent barely went up. It went up like maybe, I think by the time I left, it went from like, it basically doubled. So I think it was like 1,200 for like a 3-bedroom. I think by the time I left, it was like 2,400 for but I was there for like 10 plus years. So I saw it like increase over time. And then no, but that area is fun.
That's crazy that we were so close yet we didn't. I used to run Green Lake all the time,
Dude,
so maybe
for real.
do Green Lake
See,
in terms of
well,
like, yeah, I was there all the time. When you said
when I was in my 20s, I rarely went to. That's what's so crazy. So like during that time that you guys were there,
we were there.
See,
we were there all the time.
It's so funny. That's probably why you guys didn't see me. I wasn't really going to Green Lake until like the second half of like when I stayed in that apartment. That's when I was really at Green Lake. Those early years, like when you guys were around, I would go out. I would mostly be downtown, to be honest. Like I kind of or at U District, like, but I would be drinking probably like in that area. And I never really went, I never utilized Green Lake until much later. And then I was like, dude, what am I doing? Like I live next to this beautiful park and
And for me, I was only there in the summer times because which was the greatest time to be around Green Lake was the summer, because I'd be at school down south in just north of Portland. And then I also went to school in California. So I'd come back for the summers and just stay with my friends.
Oh my God. That's the best place to stay.
And I know I was living this life where I'd work like 3 days a week during construction in the summer during college. So I'd work 3 days a week and then just like mess around and party the other 4, which in Seattle around Green Lake, just
7 days a week.
There was all kinds of nice bars
there's bars
up there,
everywhere. You could walk to them. So if you're staying dude, like the locations that you said where those guys lived, those are all like literally walking distance.
Oh yeah. That was like one of the requirements was we wanted to be able to walk to Green Lake. So we were never more than 3 or 4 blocks from Green Lake. And even when I graduated from college and came back home and then, started working like real jobs, we still had a house in Tangletown, which was just, I think the address was like 56th Street or something like that. So just
south of there.
We kind of just moved to a different, just moved to a little bit different area. And so we loved it there. And, those were the good old days. And then we all had to grow up,
get married,
get houses and get married, and
kids. No, I have very fond memories. And so a lot of my friends have like come through, and it's just a pain though, because a lot of times, a lot of people from Spanaway/Tacoma don't like to come up to Seattle. But man, when they did, I'm always like, dude, you guys don't understand how amazing, especially this time of year. It's like, summertime, man, Green Lake cracks every day. There's not like, you could go there every day and it's as long as it's not raining. But shoot, even overcast, I mean, it's like amazingly beautiful. And then if you want to do stuff, there's just so many businesses around, and it's like, it's really a dope place to be for sure. So
yeah, it was. And it was crazy of how many people that were Spanaway Lake grads that were around that area or came through or whatever. So, I mean, we had people at our house all the time that were, younger than me. Kevin Peterson and like Ty Sakai used to roll through. And then there'd be people that were older than me that were like 1 year younger than you that would roll through. And it's just like, everybody's welcome.
Yeah,
everybody's
man.
Welcome.
I'm so mad that I didn't really connect with you guys back then, man, because that would have been, I mean, like I said, I was there just kind of doing the same thing. Like, it was just a fun area to be at. So, yeah, man. So, where was it going with this? Yeah. So, do you have any lasting memories, like any other favorite memories from high school, the high school like times? I think like probably one of the favorite things I like about this is like when people have maybe like behind the scenes stories of like that people don't may not know. It's hard to kind of like come up with them like right on the spot sometimes. So, if you don't have any, it's all good. But do you have any other like
Yeah,
memorable moments from your Spanaway Lake days?
of course. I mean, there was so many, like, some of the things that we did were just like unique. And I don't know if people get to do them these days,
Mm.
but like, I remember we had like, do you remember lock-ins
Dude, we've
where
brought
you
this
would
up
like,
before.
they,
Yes. Did those get
they would lock you in
those
the
end up
school
going
and you
away?
spend the night?
Yeah. Did those end up going
I
away?
believe me, I don't think if they knew what we were doing, I don't think they'd let them happen
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, you locked kids in a school and just like let them spread out and sleep wherever and like,
Yeah.
wow. Okay, so that was fun. The joust things that those little skits that we all did, those were fun too. I remember one time, and I was thinking about this just the other day. Gerald Perez and I were doing some sort of hosting. And I don't know if we were the hosts. I don't think we were, but they asked us to host like a certain skit or something. And he was dressed up as The Rock from
Yep.
WWE or WWF back in those days. And I was dressed up as Mankind. And the difference between the costumes was he didn't have a mask on because,
Yep.
he kind of looked like The
Yep. He
Rock
could
and
play it
whatnot.
off.
And I had a mask on and I was trying to read this script, but I had a mask on. You can only see through these like little eyes things.
Yes.
So I couldn't look down and I kind of like had to pull the mask up and like read it like this. It just did not work. But that was something that was funny. I mean, my baseball days, we weren't very good. Let's
All
just
good.
be
Hey, I was on
clear
a
about
football
that.
team that wasn't
We
very
weren't
good
very
either,
good,
so
but
you're good.
we had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun going out there. I remember, I played with guys in your grade like Chris
Oh
Lamb.
yeah,
I don't
Chris.
know what happened to him.
Yeah.
Great baseball player. I have no idea what happened to him
I think
after
he played at
school.
I want to say he played at Green River or something like that. Man,
Green River
yeah, I
Community
haven't heard
College.
his
I
name
think
in
you're
so
right.
long. Damn, that's a name that just like wow.
Yeah, Chris Lamb. I remember. Yeah, he did go to, and then Gary Green was on that
Oh
team
yeah,
too.
great.
That was my sophomore year,
Yeah.
and Gary was on that team. Those are the two guys that I remember probably the most. But I mean, there were other guys too. I remember playing with Tony Grassi.
Oh yeah.
He was big time. Adam Wolschlegel. So all those guys that were playing baseball, we spent, back in those days, it was just like a bus ride that you'd have to ride to, Thomas Jefferson High
Yes.
School, and it's in Federal
Yep.
Way, so that's a bus
Track.
ride,
That's a
right?
track.
And back in the day, yeah, yeah, as a track, and back in the day, it depended on how big your team was or whatnot. But if you were on baseball, you were sharing the bus with the fast pitch girls as well. So you can
Yep.
understand how that dynamic worked out. Like the guys had to sit on one side of the bus and the girls had to sit on the other side. But yeah.
Yes.
So that was all fun. Playing baseball was awesome. It just was something that I always loved doing. And so a lot of the memories that I have from Spanaway Lake kind of deal with baseball or
What
whatnot. I
position
remember
did you play?
I played shortstop and pitcher, and then if there was a season where I kind of got hurt and I had to play some first base, but shortstop and pitcher, and I had a ton of fun doing that. I remember one time we got a new coach, and his name was Coulter. I can't remember his first name, but Coach Coulter, and he wanted to implement like this was from we would go to practice and we just like wear whatever. So I mean, you were wearing like sweats and track pants and hoodies and whatever, but he was like, no, you guys need to be a real baseball team and you need to wear baseball pants. And like a lot of guys didn't have them. Like we don't have any baseball pants. Like we're just going out. When are we going to get our team issued stuff? He's like, well, that's your uniform, but you got to practice in pants, like baseball pants. And we're like, what are you talking about? We don't have those.
Yeah.
And so he like, I don't know what he did, but he found like this box of pants. And he was like, he started issuing them out to us. And these pants were like, they were
Old.
from like
Old.
82. Like they were old and like smelled and everything. And we were like, oh man. So then we had to start wearing baseball pants to baseball practice. And we were all pissed about it. So I remember that. That was fun. And the other thing, man, I don't know if you understood how bad our field was,
Oh yeah.
but we had to bring in like fake, they were like temporary chain link fences to like have a home run fence. And then it was like the only field that we had that on. And it was like our field. And it was so embarrassing to people like roll up and they're like, this is the field you play on? I'm like, yeah, this is the field we got. So, oh well.
Yeah.
But yeah, baseball was fun. It was a lot of fun for me. And like I said, we didn't win many games, but there also was very little expectation to
Yes,
win any game.
for sure. No, man, that sounds like a good time. This is a good time to bring up those pictures that you have. You're ready to share some of those?
Yeah, we'll see if we can get that. Okay, this is the share button. Now, when we were on our little hiatus while you're trying to get your internet right,
Yeah. Hey, I sound better now. Yeah.
yeah, I can hear everything you're saying now.
Finally,
Now.
finally.
All right, let's see if this pulls up correctly. Oh yeah, there it
Oh,
is.
dope.
So I found so
Oh,
as you
yeah.
said, there's many people that come on here and say they can't find it. I know for a fact that my box that my mom and dad gave me is in this house, the house
Somewhere.
that I live in now.
All good.
I couldn't find it. If I tried, I looked. And so these were a few of the pictures that I could find. And so this was
Junior high?
senior prom. No, this is my senior year. This is senior prom.
Dude, can
Yeah,
you
I
zoom
know. I
in?
look like
Sorry, zoom in. Zoom in a little bit.
Yeah. Does this work?
Oh,
Is that
okay.
working?
Yeah. That's better.
Hold on. Got a little wild. So this was not my junior high. This is senior high.
Okay.
This is senior.
You guys just look so young. That's why I say that, because I'm like, oh my God, you guys look like baby faces right here. But it's like, I mean, it's still 30 years ago. 25 years ago. Sorry.
Yeah.
So
This is myself and Chris Randall. And Chris Randall stayed at my house. I would say senior year, he probably stayed at my house. Let's call it 50% of the time.
Wow.
So I would sleep on an air mattress in our like family room, and he would sleep on the couch just right there. I mean, this is how I spent my senior year was doing that. And this was my don't get this twisted. This was not my car. This was not my mom's car. This was my aunt's car. So this was like the nicest car we could find in our family. And if this is what I think it is, it's a Ford Expedition.
Expedition.
Maybe I don't know. It was bigger. So I thought I was balling in this car, and of course, so this was senior prom night. And I know that Gerald, I've said it a few times, Gerald showed a photo, and I didn't show that photo because I was in that photo, but you had already talked about that. So this was Chris Randall. This is who I ran around with.
We do repeats on here. Hey, you could have, it's up to you guys. So
now are you seeing this photo that I just scrolled to? So remember when I said that there was this, how you graduated and then y'all threw, parties. My friend circle and I decided that instead of throwing 17 parties and going to 17 parties on one day, we just throw one party. So I don't remember where it was, but it was some like community hall or something like that. And I'm in the hat. Luke's right next to me to my right, and to his right is Eric Forsberg. And I've known Luke.
I played soccer with him. He played soccer with us. Yes. So he looked so familiar, and I was Luke like, God, okay, yeah.
Luke and I went to kindergarten together.
No way.
I've known Luke since so that was, I think there were a few others that we graduated with, but Luke was my dude. And so we went to kindergarten together. So we went to kindergarten, graduated, and walked together. And then we were both in each other's wedding as as groomsmen or best man. So we've been lifelong friends. And I've known Eric since I was probably in kindergarten as well. We played on a soccer team. I think I started playing soccer with him in first grade, played against him in kindergarten, but I'd known Eric my entire life, spent so many nights over at his house, But on the left here, that is Don Rose, and he was our band.
Yes, you told that story.
That's why. That's why I saw this photo and I was like, wait a second. Don Rose came to our graduation party. Mind you, I hadn't been in a class with him since I was like in 8th grade, because I think in 8th grade, he left the school and we got a new band director. And so he hadn't seen us since we were, 8th, 7th, 8th grade. And he came to our graduation party. That just shows you like the type of people that were around Spanaway during that time, is like somebody that didn't even know us that well as, 18-year-old punk kids came to our graduation party.
Yeah, no, man.
Now,
that's crazy.
The last one is just a senior photo. And what I took away from this was, look at that. I pulled this one out because I told you my mom's birthday was on Monday, and I was down in Spanaway on Sunday.
Okay.
My mom and I were driving around, and she needed to drop something off and whatever. We drove by the place that
you took this picture.
We drove by this place. Yes. This place was called Bruno Studios, and it was right by the Tacoma Mall. And first, I don't know how my mom found it or whatever, but we took senior photos there. This tree was in the front yard of a house that we took a photo, and I drove by it and I said, Mom, was that the place where I took my senior photos? And she goes, yeah, that was Bruno Studios, and that's where he did it.
Wow.
But I also wanted to just show, that we had real good style with the puka shell right there.
Hell yeah. Yep.
That's something.
Yeah. That's dope.
Nice.
That's
went everywhere with that. I think if you look closely, I think I have it right there on too. So, I mean, it was probably under the collar right here of this little.
Hey, I had a little puka shell phase too. So yeah, man, that was a sign of the times.
I think it was a thing. I think.
1,000%, 1,000%. That was a thing back then. So
I thought you would like those, but yeah, there's other photos somewhere. I for the life of me, I couldn't tell you. My wife, it was nice of my wife a few years back, maybe 2 years ago. She digitized, took from the VHS tape and put it in like a thumb drive of our senior video, or the video yearbook. I guess that's what they call it, the video yearbook of class of 2000. And she said she wanted to do that because Travis was in there, and you got to see him and listen to his voice and stuff like that. So that was something nice that I should have been more grateful for her to do
sure.
that. I kind of looked at her like, you did what? But it was nice. It was nice to see that.
No, it's so funny because like on TikTok these days, they have all these nostalgia channels, and like they'll clip stuff from like when I was there, like your year. Like I'll see random, because in fact I think there's like a video, I think, and like I think Lindsay's in one of them, like just random. And it's like, so, and like they'll just throw these on TikTok. So these are on TikTok, and it's like, whoa. And I'll and it'll be
whose account?
I'll share with you. I think it's called Nostalgia something. And like they'll show random videos from like 80s, 90s. But then like every once in a while you'll see, and I'm like, yo, like, and you'll see random Spanaway people, and you're just like, yo, and it's obviously they take it from our video yearbooks. So these yearbooks that we've had throughout the years, like, I don't know how they're getting access to them. I don't know if they're finding them on YouTube, and then they'll cut them up and then they'll throw them on TikTok, and it's crazy. So I'll show you which account it is.
I think, do that. I think you had said that some of the video yearbooks, like from like a copyright standpoint, are taken down.
They take my year down. We've tried to put our year up, like, but I've seen I know the year after me, the year before you. So I know 99. I think theirs whole yearbook is on there.
Yep.
And then 97 is on there. Their whole one. I haven't seen yours. I'm actually curious to see yours, just because, like, you guys were sophomores when I was a senior, and I'd know a pretty good amount of people. Actually, it's so crazy. I just feel like I know a good amount of people that were
it's so weird in my mind. It was like after we left, everybody was everybody. Like it wasn't like, Heinz, you were in 2 classes above me, or my sisters were in 2 classes below me. Once we left, it was like, oh, you're all from Spanaway. You all completely understand everything that we went through and what we talked about and where we went and what we did. Like it was just ingrained in all of us. It didn't matter what year you were.
I agree, but I also feel like, though, the grades, though, kind of like you just end up being just real tight with people that you were in your grade. So it's crazy how tight my class is. Just there's like a group of us that are just like super tight, and like I kind of feel like that's the one thing. But I understand what you're saying is like, because after you're done, there's just like, there's a group of people that, you're just, you're just kind of like a Spanaway person. And that's what I hope this does. And I hope I could get more people that I didn't even go to school with, like, because I've had a couple people from '02 that were ready to come on, but then, just scheduling, we've had scheduling issues. So, but that's my goal, is to kind of just, man, I'm here for everybody, so whoever wants to come on and share their story. No, I think there is something to that. I think there is something to that where it doesn't really matter. It's just kind of like, especially like if you're in a bigger place like Seattle, right? So if you're in Seattle, right, like I connected with somebody that was, I don't even know what year he is. He might have been 02, 03. But we connected when we were in Seattle just because we're both from Spanaway, kind of like what you were saying, you know what I mean? And so it's just one of those.
Who was it? Who was it?
His name was Alex Winger, and I think he was 203. Yeah, he was younger, but he was
The name sounds familiar, but me and names does not work
yeah,
together.
yeah.
Faces, yeah, I got that.
Because we were
Yeah, for
yeah, we
sure.
we connected because we were going to the same church at the time, and he was actually like a like a community group leader, and it was so random because I was like, "Whoa, you're from Spanaway?" I was like, "Oh, then yeah, I'll join your little group." Then you know what I mean? Because it was just like, "Oh yeah." Right. Once I heard he was from Spanaway, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." So
Absolutely.
no, and then which is funny because he got married
You
around.
know what's
Go
really
ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, some of the things that have happened recently to me that were super funny, that were Spanaway related.
Yeah.
I was sitting in my community, actually in a neighbor's yard, and I'm not gonna throw the neighbor's name out there because nobody would know it anyways. But we were sitting out in the yard, we're kind of joking and whatnot, having a few drinks, and they'd actually pulled their fire pit out in front, and we were talking about how we didn't know if the HOA would approve that, but who cares? And we were out there, and somebody made a comment about, like, we were talking about something that was like, kind of, the lady was basically saying, like, at least you're not from, and then she said
No
Spanaway.
way.
And my wife and I are from Spanaway, and yeah, and it was like, I didn't even know she knew anything about Spanaway, and she honestly didn't know we were from Spanaway. So it was like she was kind of using it as like a punchline and a joke. And my wife and I kind of looked at each other like, and some of our other neighbors who knew we were from Spanaway like looked at us, and we were just like, just started drinking again. And it was just kind of funny how, like, she was saying it as like a derogatory thing.
Yeah,
Like,
as a
I wear
joke.
it as a badge of honor. Like, well, I'm from
Yeah.
Spanaway. This is where I'm from. Like, even when I went to school down in California, they were like, well, where are you from again? And I was like, I'm from Seattle. And they were like, oh yeah, Seattle. And I'm like, nah, I'm from
Tacoma.
Tacoma.
Yeah.
And they're like, nah, okay. And then I was like, no, I'm from
Spanaway.
Spanaway. Like, I'd have to like qualify if
I
they
do
knew
that
where Seattle
all the
was. And then
time.
if they knew where that was, I'd go to Tacoma. And then if they knew where Tacoma was, I go to Spanaway. And then they were like, well, like, why are you the way that you are? Because they could obviously tell that I had like a little bit of urban like
Yeah.
upbringing, and
Yep.
like, it's just who we are. And I was just like, well, have you guys ever seen Cops? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, whenever they're in Pierce County, that's like where I'm from. And they're like, shit, really?
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's kind of the area that we grew up on. And so it kind of started making sense as to why this white guy was banging like Tupac and all this other
Yeah.
music. And they're like, well, how do you know about this? This was like completely foreign to them. And it was like the two universities that I went to, I mean, it was 99% white
Yeah.
people. And for me, I felt like a fish out of
Yeah.
water. I was like, okay, like, I look like them, but I'm not them at all. Like, I'm this kid driving a Honda Accord lowered with rims, and these guys are,
Yeah.
driving trucks that are raised, and they're blasting country. And it's like, I didn't match up with them at all. So it's really funny how life brings it full circle when you're sitting in a neighborhood, drinking with your neighbors, and there's a fire pit, and then somebody throws out a joke that's supposed to be like a slam to Spanaway, and I'm like, well, didn't tell her anything. But then her husband found out. He was like, found out you were from Spanaway, and she was like, I hope you weren't offended by my wife's joke. And I was like, no, it kind of made me laugh.
Well, it's funny because, obviously I don't think it was necessarily, it was meant to be a joke, to be funny, but it was more like, enter some
Yeah.
random town that nobody's from. And then you could just kind of bag on that town, and then
Hmm.
Spanaway happened to be the butt of that
Yeah.
joke with not even realizing like that's what I think is funny. So it's because I mean I feel like there's places up
Yeah.
north that you could kind of say that about too. Maybe not like Spanaway wise, but I don't know. This after living in Seattle, I just think like, man, there's Spanaway's unique, but there's a lot of other towns that are also kind of similar to Spanaway, and I don't know. I just feel
Hmm.
like it's a lot of Washington is very more similar to each other than it is not similar to each other. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, that's because
And I found that so many different walks of life, they're all similar. It's
yeah,
like, it does not much matter if you had a ton of money or no money.
yeah,
And it does not matter, like, if you were from, like, it just, people are the same no matter what. They're different, but they're the same deep down at the bottom of it. We just want our kids to do well. We want to have a nice little life. We don't want to make too many waves,
I think
you know,
that's
and that's what I really took away from, you know, walking away from Spanaway and not going back because like I just had opportunities elsewhere, but I just never really landed in Spanaway again. And I chose to I lived in Seattle until I got married, still lived in Seattle,
Yep.
had kids, still lived in
Yep.
Seattle. And then finally it was just like, hey, I think it's time for like a yard with a fence.
Yeah.
And so that's how we landed here. But the more I found out that like the people here are the same as the people in Spanaway, it's just, we're just in a different community.
1,000%, man. I think you kind of nailed it. You nailed that nail on the head. And so this kind of goes in with I usually ask this question to everybody too, like you pretty much just answered it, like when it comes to Spanaway, when you hear people speak of Spanaway, like what initially comes to your mind,
It's usually driving in a car somewhere, whether it was with my mom in her car, or my dad in his car, or a friend in his car, or me in my car. It's just like all the different streets. And like I could still drive down my old neighborhood and I could point out where Johanna Barnes lived, and I could point out where Clinton Chong lived, and I could point out where Kathy Jones lived. And like I just know all. It's just like, oh, and there's my friend Luke's mom and dad's house. Like that's the thing, is like as I drive through, and like all those neighborhoods were like so intertwined that like you go in one and then you end up in the next one. And like I remember like riding bikes, and my neighborhood connected through a field that then you went through another field, and you could end up in the Spanaway Lake like back baseball field, and then we could ride bikes back there. And this was younger years, when I was like, I don't know, 12, 13, when mom and dad would finally let you like venture out of the neighborhood and you've had your freedom with your bike or whatever. And we just like meet people and ride bikes. And like, I remember talking with Ben Kelly, who's married to my sister now, and we just sit around and he's like, yeah, we really must have like rode bikes together, like your bike gang and my bike gang. We weren't like doing gang stuff, but we were just like riding around together and like trying to see who could do a better jump. And it was all in the Spanaway Lake parking lot where we all parked our cars, and like they had those little hills.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
That's right.
We just go off bike jumps and stuff. So like when people start like talking about like Spanaway, that's where my mind goes, is like it was an innocent place for me growing up that I could just kind of venture out. And even though there's a lot of questionable stuff that happened there kind of when we were growing up and whatnot, I still felt like overall like safe and secure enough to like ride around my bike at 13 years old, and mom would just let you go, and then you'd come back hours later with no explanation of where you went, who you're with, or what you were doing.
Yeah. No, man. That's amazing. I love hearing what triggers those type of memories. So no, man, that's dope. And so finally, I like to kind of ask this as my actually, I'll ask you one more before we get that started. Is there any last things that you wanted to say, maybe to anybody from Spanaway, or anything to maybe your classmates, before I ask you this very last question?
Yeah, I guess I would just say that like Heinz, did you get to have a 20-year reunion? Like, did you guys have one and were you able to attend it?
Man, that thing is, we did, and they had an official one, but then there was a group of people that didn't want to necessarily pay like whatever. It ended up being a thing, so it kind of got like split up. And then I kind of got in charge of like the after party.
So half went one way,
and like, well, we kind of had an after party. We were like, hey, after you guys are done with the official, we're gonna be at Lady Luck, I believe is the name of it. So we just kind of had like an unofficial after party at Lady Luck, and and then like I think half of those people ended up coming, and then like there was like more people there, and like and looking back, I just think like that was kind of messed up of me to do. Like I should have just, we should have just all went to one, and just had one. So yeah.
Here's the thing I'll say about that. At least you got to have one, because if you think about it, our 20th year reunion in the class of 2000 was in 2020. We all know what happened.
That's right.
We didn't get to have a 20-year reunion. And so for me, like, I was really looking forward to that, to like try to reconnect with people that, you just lose touch with, and it's nobody's fault. But that was the one thing that, like, when you said that question, I was like, wait a second, like, we didn't get to have our 20th year. It was planned. Yeah. It was planned and everything. And I think there was, a family side of it, and then a non-family side of it, and like a park side of it, like all that. So I guess what I'll say is this, like, we didn't get to have a 20-year reunion. And that really sucks.
Well, you know what?
So that's the one thing that I my classmates is like, that sucked. Let's get, and 25 is here and gone. So let's
I
just
mean,
make sure we
dude,
get
well,
a
no, no, no,
30th.
no. I'll stop you right there. It's not gone. We're only in July. And I feel like, um, typically a lot of these things happen over the summer, but they don't have to be. There's no rules to any of this. And I feel like you guys should still do a 25 year. And like we have like homecoming coming up, right? There's like, you have
Mm,
the rest of the year. You could plan something for around Thanksgiving, maybe like when a lot of people might, whose parents still live in the area, like maybe plan something like that. I'm just throwing ideas out there for your class. And like 25 is
yeah.
such a kind of I feel like it's a better year to sort of celebrate something like that, especially for your class of 2000. It's just like nice, even numbers. I think you guys could, I mean, and that's why I'm kind of glad that this exists. Is like, hey, maybe this might be a catalyst for your class to kind of get going on maybe like organizing something for, there's still 5 more months left in the year to kind of have something. So, hey, why not?
Yeah.
Why not throw something together? And even if it's not super formal, it could be like, hey, we're just going to like meet up at a bar or something, like meet up at the EQC or something like that, and just whoever's around and
Yeah.
can come, like, I think it doesn't have to be anything too big, but I think, hey, just giving it a shot and just, throwing feelers out there. Cause I think as the years go by, you're going to like, where it's like, man, should we have done something in 2025? Yes. A lot of times people will be like, yeah, we
Yeah,
should have done
probably.
something. Especially for you guys that live in Washington, just, plan something for the fall or winter months. Like I said, you could plan it around football season. You could plan it around Thanksgiving. You could plan it around kind of like whatever. And then like, even if it isn't that many of you, but just getting the word out, I think it could be something big, especially if you guys didn't have a 20-year, because I wish that we had a 25-year personally. So, and we didn't have
Mm,
that. So, but we did have a 20. And so it's like, so now we're looking forward to our 30, which is not too many few. It's only like 3 years away. So it's like, okay,
right.
but ultimately with this podcast, I would like people to actually meet up more and more often. It doesn't matter what year it is. And so it's just kind of like, I just feel like whenever people come together, I just think good things happen. And especially like in the digital age, just in-person events just hit a little bit different, especially for us millennials slash Gen Xers, I just think it hits different. So uh, I'll
Yeah, you're
just
right.
kind of throw that out there for you. But okay, so finally, now if you could have a conversation with yourself and go back to 2000, what would that conversation look like?
Man. Listen, I think in high school I thought I was the shit. I mean, I think that was probably the detriment of who I was back then. And it's just like, you don't have to prove anything to anybody. You just be who you are. And I think over the years I've just come into who I am and just understand, like, this is me. It's unapologetically me. If you don't like it, well, sorry for it. I'm just going to be me. And I guess back in the day, like, older Ryan would tell younger Ryan to just like calm down. Like, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
It really isn't. It really isn't that big of a deal. Like, what somebody said about you or what you thought about something. It was like, just be happy. There's no reason to be all crazy and whatnot. So I think looking back now, I'd probably look at myself and think, what a punk kid that guy
Mm,
was. Like, what an idiot. Like, you know what? That's just being honest.
yeah.
This is like, man, it's not that hard to just be a good person. I'm not saying I wasn't. It's just like, I think I'm a little bit wiser these days and don't need to like try to impress people and talk about myself. And that was one of the hardest things about when I was considering whether I was going to come on to the podcast or whatnot, was like, I don't really want to talk about myself a whole lot. And so like a lot of the stories that I
That's
told were
everybody.
like with other people. Yeah, with other people. And that's why I keep coming back to like, Spanaway is about people to me, and the people
Spano is about
that
people.
meant something to me. I still get to hang out with them. I still get to see them. Doesn't mean that those other people don't. It's just like, these are the people that found the same path that I found in life.
Man,
So,
that's dope.
I mean, 25-year-old years later, Ryan would just tell
18-year-old
18-year-old Ryan to just calm down a little bit. Just calm down. There's no reason to be all uptight.
Yeah, man, that's dope. I think that man, I'm just so thankful for you just sharing everything that you shared with the program today, getting through technical difficulties and powering through. Yeah, just thank you again, Ryan, for joining the show. And for those of you guys out there watching, man, we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Thanks, Heinz. Have a good one, buddy.